Let me cut across right now to Andrew Manuel Crespo, Morris Wasserstein, Public Interest Professor of Law. He joins us. He is a professor at the Harvard Law School. Appreciate you taking the time off and joining us, Professor, especially at this time. First up, your comments on the current conflict between President Trump and your university, where President Trump has practically called out Harvard for being woke, bird brains, or even using the word like idiot.
This is a dire moment, not just for my university, but for higher education all across our country, and really for our country itself. We are seeing an attack on the oldest university in the United States, and it is an attack that is trying to change the way that we teach, the way that we research, who we hire, and an attack on our academic freedom and on our independence. This is an attack on one of the central institutions of a constitutional democracy. Our president has been attacking our press, our courts, our legal profession, and now our universities. And I think it's very critical that these institutions stand up for each other, stand up for themselves, and insist on protecting their constitutional rights, including their freedom of speech and their right to teach.
But Professor, many would see it as a brave move, but how are you going to deal with the cuts in federal grants, in tax? Where is the money coming from? Understandably, yes, Harvard has this huge endowment. Even then, how are you going to deal with the cuts?
I am proud to see our faculty and our administration standing up. It is a scary time. There is no institution in the world that can just blink at losing $9 billion, which is what the Trump administration has threatened. At the same time, there is no university in the world that is more well-known and that is wealthier than Harvard. So I think it was incumbent on us to take this stand. I think we had a moral obligation to do it, but we can't do this by ourselves. We're going to need support from every other university in the country. We're going to need support from people who understand that this is a threat to democracy around the world. This is a critical moment and a critical test for institutions that are part of the lifeblood of democracy in countries that hold themselves out as democratically governed.
Professor, you say, you will need support, but if you continue to remain isolated, standing up against the administration, then I would reckon Harvard will go into self-preservation mode. How much will it then impact foreign students, scholarship, all that, Harvard is known for?
The attack on our foreign students is one of the most devastating aspects of the way the Trump administration is trying to bend Harvard and other universities to its will. We have seen our foreign students arrested and taken into federal detention centers without any criminal charges. Some of these students have been held there for weeks. We saw that at Columbia. We've seen it at other universities across the country. We have seen hundreds of students have their visas revoked for things like writing an op-ed in their college newspaper. This is an all-out authoritarian tactic. When you grab people off the street because they wrote something in a newspaper that you didn't like and you put them in a detention center for weeks without criminal charges, that is as authoritarian of a move as you can see. It is dangerous, and it is really, really important that we fight back against that with everything that we have. That is one of the threats facing Harvard, and you're right, these are scary times. But it is important also that we realize that we have tools at our disposal. For one, all of these actions are illegal. They are unconstitutional. I am a law professor. I teach law at Harvard University. It violates the First Amendment of our Constitution to try to use the power of government to coerce people into either shutting up or saying what the government wants them to say. That's why our chapter of the American Association of University Professors went to court last Friday and filed a lawsuit on behalf of faculty members here at Harvard to try to get these funding cuts frozen. Weeks before that, our chapter went to court to try to get a court order to stop these unlawful and unconstitutional arrests of our foreign-born students. These are the types of efforts that it takes to push back, but courts alone are not enough. We need people. We need the American people to understand that our universities are a central part of our country and of our democracy. This is where critical research that benefits people across the globe, cures to diseases, important new medicines are discovered. This is where we understand our history and our democracy and the role that law plays in our country. This is where we study our literature and the literatures of the whole world. This is where we study arts and dance and find out all the things that make our life worth living and our human flourishing so central parts of our lives. You can't have a flourishing society without flourishing universities. And everyone in the country needs to realize that, and I hope that people around the world will see that attacks on universities are attacks on the lifeblood of what a country can be and what it is.
The opinion on that is very divided in your country, Professor, today, and there is this new reality. And to take off from the question I asked you earlier, how are you going to deal with this new reality? Because there will be students who are, international students would be very worried today, where scholarships are concerned. Number two, because Harvard might have taken this very hard stand. But on the other hand, what about students who might fear their visa being revoked? If they fall in line with the stand that Harvard has taken. So it has deeper implications for students who are studying at your university.
It's a great question. I'm proud to see our university taking some steps to try to mitigate on the financial side of this. They issued new bonds and sort of taking on new debts to have the type of financial security to handle this. I'm also very proud to be at the law school at Harvard, where we have an initiative where a law professor here at Harvard Law School and a team of lawyers give representation to any of our foreign-born students who are facing immigration consequences and work in partnership with lawyers around the area to try to provide the type of legal protection that we are able to provide. All of that said, it is a scary time. The Trump administration has arrogated to itself, has tried to grant itself broad unilateral power to cancel visas and to punish foreign-born students. And I understand and realize how much our foreign-born students here are the most at threat right now and are very scared. I have conversations with students in my office all the time about the fears they have about whether something, a protest that they went to is going to cause them to face these consequences. And I think it's essential in these moments for all of us here to realize we need to take care of the members of our community who are facing these threats. Harvard has to continue putting the resources into providing legal representation to any of our affiliates, our faculty, our staff, our students who are facing immigration consequences because of these threats. And we need to continue communicating to the world. Harvard is a global university. We are a global institution. Large numbers of our members of our student body, our faculty, come from around the world, including from India. This is an essential question for the globe. Attacking Harvard when the Trump administration attacks Harvard, it is trying to shut the doors to a global university and trying to impede our ability to share knowledge across the world, to build a global institution of knowledge and knowledge sharing. This is an issue just as much impacting other countries as it's impacting ours.
Professor, what some call wokeism, what is clear is an attack on liberal thought in universities and Ivy Leagues across, not just your university. The likes of Columbia have caved in, bent over backwards. Other Ivy Leagues are also compromising. Harvard right now is seen as the only one standing up against the administration. Do you think you will get support? Do you think, that possibly this could spark a larger resistance movement? Or do you find yourself isolated in all of this?
I certainly hope we'll see support. That's why our chapter took the initiative and took the lead and filed this first lawsuit, moving even faster than the leadership of our university to try to make clear we are not going to back down. We are not going to sit down. We're going to stand up for our constitutional rights. We're going to stand up for the core mission of higher education in the United States. And we hope and are already seeing that others will be joining us. Look, the lesson from Columbia is critical to learn. Columbia was the first to face this onslaught, and I feel for my colleagues at that school. It is terrifying to have the federal government come down and try and destroy your institution. Columbia acceded to the demands that the Trump administration made of them. It did not get its money back. Instead, the Trump administration came back and froze even more money. This is the critical lesson to learn when you are being attacked by a bully. If you do what the bully wants, he's just going to keep punching you in the face. You need to stand up, and you need to stand up together. That's why I'm already encouraged to see leaders of other universities. I was encouraged to see the leadership of our university days after we filed our lawsuit say that they were going to stand up and not cave to these demands. And in the aftermath of that, you have seen statements coming out from other university leaders, presidents of other universities, saying that they appreciate what Harvard's doing and that they too are going to defend their academic freedom, defend their missions. We're seeing our former president, Barack Obama, standing up and saying how critical to the whole country higher education is and how we cannot let these attacks stand. I am hopeful we are seeing a turning point from fear to moral courage, from isolation to solidarity, and from all of us trying to realize this is the moment where we need to stand up. This is the moment we need to stand together.
Professor, let me put it this way. For a lot of, or let me put it this way. Who you called a bully right now is also the popularly elected president of your country. And I'm quoting what he says. He doesn't just want you to apologize. He wants accountability for the money that the federal government has been giving you.
Look, if the president actually thought that there were legitimate legal grounds to take this money away from Harvard, he would invoke the statutes that govern the process by which these funds could be rescinded. We have a statute passed by our Congress. It's called the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Title VI of that statute spells out all of the processes and procedures that are available to the president if he wants to try to remove funding from an institution like Harvard. To do that, he has to actually make an allegation about what we have done wrong, and then he needs to have a hearing and demonstrate it. He needs to put forward evidence. He has done none of that. The reason he has done none of that is because he does not have grounds to do it. That's why we've gone to court and insisted that this is not power that the president has. Our Congress, under our Constitution, has the power to appropriate funds and to put money where it wants that money put. For close to 70 years now, that Congress has put a lot of money into a partnership with the leading research universities in our country to ensure that scientific and medical advances can happen. The president is not using the statutes that are available to him to try to actually take this funding away because he knows he has no legal basis to do it.
But Professor, just this morning, the president's come out with a very harsh statement where he said Harvard has been hiring almost all woke, radical left idiots, bird brains, who are only capable of teaching failure to students and so-called future leaders. Harvard is a joke, teachers hate, stupidity, and should no longer receive federal funds. Now, do you also see what is happening, in a division in your society? Because at one end, a lot of protests are taking place, not just in universities, but across your country. But on the other, there are a lot who believe that, institutions like Harvard are elitist and only inspire wokeism.
I'm hopeful that we can find a way through where the president recognizes the value that these universities bring to the country. Look, I think for all of the things that we disagree on, I think that President Trump wants to see America succeed in the world. You cannot succeed in the world if you try to destroy your leading universities. Harvard and the other universities that have been targeted by the administration have been critical to America's success over the past century and more. This is a university that has been here since before the founding of this country. We have contributed to our scientific advances. We've contributed to our medical advances. We've contributed to our learning. We've contributed to our governance. We've contributed to the arts. You cannot have a flourishing society if you try and eradicate all of its institutions of higher learning. Is there a divide? Yes, absolutely. There's a deep divide in our country. Do our universities need to do better about trying to reach across that divide? Yes, absolutely. Do we need to make our universities more accessible to people across the country? Yes, absolutely. There is no perfect institution, but you don't improve these institutions by destroying them, and that is what the president is trying to do.
Professor Crespo, appreciate you taking the time off and joining us this evening. Thank you for that, and good luck. We in India would be keenly watching what really goes on. Good luck once again. Thank you for taking the time.